German carmaker Volkswagen recorded a net loss of over $1.2 billion for this year's third quarter. It's their first quarterly loss in 5 years. The company has had to deal with higher United States tariffs while scaling back its electric vehicle production. All this comes as Chinese EV manufacturers enjoyed their best ever month in Europe, with September seeing a strong performance. Let's talk now to Anna-Marie Baisden, the head of autos and infrastructure research at Fitch Solutions. Anna-Marie, welcome. Good to see you. What's Volkswagen's problem? Can it catch up with the competition?
I would say one of the main challenges for VW is at the moment it's got high exposure to what we would call the three main markets where a lot of challenges for the whole industry are. So you're looking at not just Europe, but also the US, China, the trade relationships between the three. You know, it's not just the tariffs, it's also now the situation with China and rare earth exports. So it's facing all of those, as well as you said, the electrification side of things. It's put billions of euros into electrification. Adoption is ticking along, maybe slowing a little bit in Europe. We can see a complete shift away from it in North America. A lot of competition in China from the domestic brands. So it's facing challenges on all fronts, really. In terms of whether it can bounce back, I think we're looking at this for all legacy OEMs in Europe at the moment. I think there are certainly some opportunities with some of the new model launches that are coming along in the EV segment in particular over the next 2 years. But it will be a longer competition, I think.
Can legacy car makers, these are the manufacturers who used to make petrol and diesel, still do, across the world catch up with the Chinese EV makers, who for the most part are companies who have only ever made EVs?
Certainly possible. Some of the things we're looking at the moment, for example, one of the areas where Chinese brands have enjoyed a real price advantage is from the battery chemistries that they're using. They tend to use lithium iron phosphate a lot more, which is cheaper than some of the more nickel-based batteries that European and North American car makers have been using. So now we're starting to see these legacy OEMs shift up their chemistries to these cheaper options. So that's one area. Also, just more affordable models in general. I think we saw a lot more premium EVs coming out at the start in Europe, but now we're starting to see some more affordable models coming along. Maybe still not at that price point that the Chinese car makers are achieving, but certainly a lot more accessible than they are at the moment. So, as I said, it's probably a longer game for the European brands, but we're starting to see some signs of the opportunities where they can try and play catch up a little bit more.
Price is everything, though, isn't it? Car buyers decide with their purses, decide with their wallets, don't they? Too many legacy car makers are just too expensive.
Yes, that's certainly the problem that we've seen in the EV segment. You know, even in the ICE segment as well, it's an issue. And I think, you know, for Chinese brands, it might be interesting for them when they come here that even the difference in how European consumers buy cars, you know, there's much more in the way of financing and leasing in Europe that maybe they're not used to in China.
The Chinese EV manufacturers see their best ever month in Europe, September seeing this strong performance. European car buyers could buy anything, but they are seemingly buying Chinese, aren't they? Why is that?
Certainly the price point, as we've mentioned, that's, you know, even with the tariffs that were introduced last year, a lot of these brands are still operating with much lower prices than the European brands. But it's also the fact that they're not basic cars for that money. There are still a lot of features that you get with the Chinese brands, so they're also attractive in their own right. So that's a bit of a double whammy for the European brands.
Anna-Marie, fascinating stuff. Great to have you back on the programme, and thanks so much for your time. Anna-Marie Baisden, Head of Autos and Infrastructure Research at Fitch Solutions.